Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to All Beer Inside, or as I've been saying, maybe not so much All Beer Inside. We've traveled to Shelburne, Vermont, and joining me today is Nick of Shelburne Orchards and also Dead Bird Distillery.
Yeah.
Hi. Nick, thank you very much for taking time out of your schedule to speak with us today about your orchard and your distillery. I look forward to hearing about the history of both. But you brought me out some tasty looking beverages here to try. What's number one I'm starting with here?
This one is the Pommeau.
Okay.
This one is the straight up Dead Bird Brandy. 80 proof. This is 80 proof brandy made from apples.
Okay.
There's probably 30 varieties of apples in there. This particular bottling is 9 years in oak.
Wow.
That's like gut to burn. It's brandy.
Okay.
The other one is Pommeau, which is more like a port or sherry style of drink. It's fortified sweet cider. So we take sweet cider, fortify it with at least 2-year-old brandy to it's about 20 proof for 40% alcohol.
Okay.
So it's doesn't have the burn. The alcohol keeps that cider from fermenting, so it stays sweet and appley.
So you suggest I start with the Pommeau?
Yeah, the Pommeau, it's very nice. It's a very nice, easy to drink too much of because it doesn't have the burn.
Amazing.
So,
Beautiful nose. And you said 40% alcohol?
yeah. Okay. So there's still alcohol in there.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Awesome. Cool. Cheers. Toast. It's like alcohol apple juice. Wow. Very tasty. No burn.
Yeah.
Really
But
good.
there's barrel. I mean, it isn't just alcohol and apple juice because there's oak. It's 4 years. That's been in oak for 4 years.
Okay.
So you still get some of the oak flavors in.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Like you said, very dangerous. Something you could have a couple of
Yes.
and you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as we say, just make sure you either drink responsibly or has a designated driver. That's the important part.
yeah.
So from what I read online, quite the history for Shelburne Orchards. What is the history of Shelburne Orchards? Like, what's the story?
Well, yeah, Shelburne Orchards it's been in the family since the mid 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And my father it was our neighbor. It was about a 400 apple tree orchard before that.
Yeah.
The earlier trees, those trees were planted around 1910. And a lot of old varieties of apples, but Macintosh were probably prevalent. And then my dad owned it up until 1974, which I grew up. So I grew up in the orchard. My mom moved on, left here, and since '74, he grew it up to about 2,000 apple trees. And now we've got over 8,000 apple trees.
Oh my gosh.
And it's changed from an orchard that we picked and sold brought the apples to a cooperative packing facility. I built a packing facility, but I also have completely turned it into a pick your own people. So we sell 90% of the apples, not just apples, but pears, peaches, sour cherries. 90% gets sold right off the farm. So we've created, and we're close to Burlington, we're close to the lake. It's a beautiful location for people to come. Families, it's mostly young families with kids. It's a great activity so we'll sell like 8,000 cider donuts on a Saturday. It's like, that's how many people come, thousands of people come. And we have wagon rides, and it's just, we've created this great retail situation. And so the packing line, where we used to pack apples and sell to Price Shoppers or Grand Union, that stopped. And we're now getting all the retail selling apples retail. So the packing line area, the space in the storage building that was the packing line, I took the packing line out, this big, beautiful space, floor drains, concrete floor, the forklift, the big coolers. What to do?
Yeah.
This is like perfect situation to put a distillery, which 2009 is when we started distilling, got my license, and it just worked perfectly. And we sell, and if we sell the alcohol through the state distribution system, they take about half.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. This is a small farm, small distillery. We maybe bottle 1,000 bottles a year, but we can sell it all right from the farm. So it makes sense. If we had to sell it through the state, it wouldn't make as much sense financially for us at this scale. So
yeah, your ROI is a lot better here than
yes.
Yeah.
It makes good money, and also we can use apples that aren't perfect if we get hail. And the other part of that, for being an agricultural business, to have a product that we can sell regardless if the crop fails for 1 year. We have income coming in from the brandy that it's just it's a diversification of the business that really makes sense.
For sure. I mean, you saw that there was a demand for. I don't see a lot of brandy coming out of Vermont.
Right.
Personally, in my eyes, so you saw there was a demand there.
Right.
Apples are pretty much natural.
There's actually not a big demand. So that's the other thing. Who goes to the liquor store to buy apple brandy?
Yeah.
Very few people. So we have all these people coming to the orchard. We have a tasting room, and people go, "Oh, brandy!" For one thing, they think about the coffee, brandy, or something sweet and syrupy.
Yeah.
So that's not what this is. Mm-hmm. This is definitely like a whiskey strain, and so there is an educational process, and so we're having to basically create our own market and build our own market and educate people about it, and it's working. Every year we probably double our sales just because people try it, they like it, they come back.
Yeah.
So
it's a crazy timeline too, because you start from only a few hundred apple trees to a few thousand to what you have now, and I think I read 60 acres you have?
100, yeah. Well, there's 100 acres altogether,
Okay.
60 acres of actual canopy orchard. Yeah.
Okay, and that's primarily where we are right now.
Yeah.
I was just where I parked, I'm looking, I'm like, oh my God. I could have a drone and fly over your entire field and it might run in a battery, because this is a huge land and family owned and staying in the family this entire time. I'm assuming at some point you're going to pass it down to your daughter and her family too. So that's another important part of your story, and from what I see, Vermont's story in general is a lot of family-owned business that just gets passed down over and over and over, and that's a huge thing in this state in Vermont, I find.
Yeah, and it's great for me. I mean, the other thing, making something like making brandy that takes 9 years in a barrel.
Yeah,
that's crazy, right? Like when we make it, we don't get to know what it's going to taste like for 9 years. It's like going to school and not getting a report card until you're like an old man, It's kind of crazy. And it's an art form that takes more than one generation really to learn. So it's a long-term process. So having a son-in-law and daughter that's interested in taking it's awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear. I mean, your daughter set this up today, Mariah. So I thank you very much to her for setting this up, and it's amazing to hear like your history and your story. And this is a family bred business.
Yeah.
When the pandemic hit and you saw things happening, you were like, oh, at least we can maybe sell the brandy online and people will come and pick it up. Or...
Yeah, we were able to do that. People can buy it online, but they have to come and pick it up.
Yeah.
So it was great. People would buy it and they wouldn't even have to get out of their car. I'd just like right through the window.
Just pop the trunk.
They have to show some ID first, but
just prove they're 21. That's all.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, and I mean, clearly you guys survived. You're thriving from everything I can see, especially with the website. There's just constantly events, and your tasting room is a limited time frame. Roughly end of August till October-ish.
Yeah, but then we have people still can come down and pick stuff up even if the tasting room's open. No, if the tasting room doesn't have to be open, you can still any time of year purchase online and then contact us, and we'll still hand the bottle through the car window.
That's awesome.
And through Christmas, through the holidays, we sell a lot of that's a big. They're good gifts.
Yeah. Now, what made you decide to go just beyond apples and grow cherries, peaches, and all that other stuff? Do you find the ground here is just perfect for multiple fruit growth?
Well, yeah, peaches, it's kind of a crapshoot. You know, like we're in Vermont. Normally peaches grow in Georgia.
Yeah.
But there are two things happening. Seems like it might be getting a little bit warmer. And then the other part of it that's actually more significant is that they're creating more and more winter, cold hardy varieties of peaches. So we're trying those different, you know, we've got probably 7 different varieties of peaches. This year, we got in February, 17 below zero will kill the buds.
Yeah.
And that happened this year. And it used to be, rule of thumb was every 3rd year we'd have a peach crop.
Okay.
But the last 10, 15 years, we've had them every year. Bang, 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 bang. This is now we got froze out. It's just the way it is. It's growing peaches in Vermont
That's pretty good though. Like almost 15 years straight of growth.
We've had a great stretch. In any case, peaches people love. It's good money. The sour cherries are easy. We don't have a lot of sour cherries, but it's this coming weekend. Actually, we're opening for the sour cherry picking.
Okay.
And that'll be just a few days. It's not a big thing, but the people who like making pie, you know, the sour cherries are the pie cherries, and these are Montmorency. They're the French sour cherry pie cherries, and if you haven't had a fresh cherry pie made with fresh sour cherries, you haven't lived.
That's amazing. I'd have to try one at some point. That's a big thing. From what I noticed on your online portal, it's called You Pick, and you basically just have people come and pick their fruits as much as they want. How popular is that?
It's popular. One of the things that has changed too, since we have the internet, and I mean, it seems like we've had it for a long time, but in the scope of this orchard, it isn't a long. Having the ability to send out newsletters to emails, and have a list of 4,000 people that want to know when things are happening, we can send these emails out and pinpoint the exact time and place to come to pick different things. If we had to do it through paper to magazines that come out once a week, that would be really difficult. But we have the ability to do that now, and people sign up for a peach picking time, for instance, and we can get 200 people on Thursday afternoon from 6 to 9 in the evening, or 6 to 7:30, and they'll come and pick 2,000 pounds of peaches and be gone. And they're happy, we're happy. So, yeah.
On top of that, you also sell trees as well, from what I've seen.
We do sell apple trees.
Okay. How did that come along where you're just like, oh, we have extra trees, let's sell them off?
Well, it came from a time when, for me, again, being in agriculture, having years that the apples don't, we could get hail and wipe out a whole year's worth of work, or a hurricane, or a frost, or there are things that can come up. So anything that I can sell in this business that don't depend on the crop is just backup. Money that comes. And apple trees, even if the crop fails, are still saleable. And so they're big trees. There's like a 44-inch root ball, 4-inch caliper tree, goes for a couple $1,000. And we sell those. Then we have the 36-inch root ball ones that are 2.5-inch caliber. They're still like 8 feet tall, 6-foot wingspan. Plenty of apples growing on them, and not many people can, find that size apple tree for sale. So we sell a lot of them.
Plus, on the website, I saw there's a lot of how to take care of the tree, how to grow the tree.
Yeah.
Do you find that's also like that draws a lot of people, where you're telling them, hey, this is how you take care of your tree?
Yes.
And this will help you grow apples every season.
Well, I have a standard, like people ask me all the time what to do. They have their apple tree and they want to know what to do, how to make it produce great apples. And I tell them I've developed this pruning style guarantees 100% perfect apples every year.
Wow.
You just prune the tree right close to the ground and come buy your apples at Shelburne Orchards.
Love that. Okay, now speaking of the still, 2009 you start creating the distillery. Where did you create your own still, or did you buy that from somewhere?
We bought the stills from a small still maker in Portugal, handmade, hand-hammered copper stills.
Wow.
The first, there's I have 2 of them now, and from the same company, and they're designed. It's an old design. They look just like a little temple. You know, they're round with a little thing on top.
Yeah.
And the design is what the cognac, the early Armagnac and cognac stills, and so it's like it was Portugal. So that's near southern France, and
A few weeks over in a boat.
Yeah.
In the truck.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. That's nice to hear that. It's almost like old country when you think about it.
Yes.
You're going for that old school technology.
All of this feels like old country.
Yeah,
to
I
me.
mean the barrel room we're in, it feels old school technology. You got an old school rocking chair back there that people would pay hundreds of dollars for, type of thing. All these barrels, which I'm sure breweries and vineyards and all other places are asking time and time again, like, hey, you got barrels for sale.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy. And then from what I read on your website, you retain about 90% of the juice from the apples from the fermentation, not the fermentation, from the beginning of the distilling to the fermentation. Like when you're crushing down the apples for the juice.
Yeah.
You retain, from what I saw, about 90% of the juice. Is that right?
Well, I'm not sure exactly. We retain all the juice.
Okay, all the juice.
It's from the cider. Well, we make cider in the fall.
Okay.
The cider press is running all fall. We're selling sweet cider to people, but we're filling large fermentation tanks up in the storage building. The blends for when we're making pressing cider for the brandy, we blend many different apples, and we've got in the last 20 years we've been planting specifically varieties for the brandy. Not all apples are that you grow that we put in the brandy that you'd want to eat. They're sour, they're high tannin apples. So we press those and fill those tanks in the fall, and it's about 8,000 gallons, I think, that we fill tanks when they're all full, and they get yeast pitched in them, and it takes 3 to 6 weeks for the sugar in the cider to turn to alcohol.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, so it's kind of perfect because we get done harvest at the end of October. We've done pressing. That's when we're pressing. And then by the time harvest is over, everybody's beat, and then we take November is kind of like going, everybody's recuperating. And so after Thanksgiving, all the brandy, the hard ciders finish fermenting, and that's when we start the stills up, usually beginning of December, and run the stills through December into early January, when there's not a whole lot else to do. We're kind of waiting for the trees to go dormant so we can start pruning. So it's like, it fits in perfectly with the cycle of work in the orchard.
And then pumping them into barrels and waiting 9 years or so for...
So we started this in 2009, and we started filling barrels, and we had this grace period of 6-7 years before we first bottled. Because we wanted to age. In the orchard business, carried the brandy business all those years where we were buying the barrels, building the cellar, buying the stills. And now we've had that grace period is over. Now we can bottle, and every year another batch will have matured enough to bottle. So it's a long-term process.
Yeah, it's commitment for sure. Awesome. So tell me a little bit more about the brandy that you didn't tell me before.
Well, people want to know if it's something that's an after dinner drink or a before dinner drink.
So an aperitif or not an aperitif.
So that's and I swear to God, it's really good to have it right when you first wake up in the morning, and then after breakfast it's good. Mid-morning coffee, it's good to have a little, before your nap, after your nap.
As long as you're not driving, right? So
Yeah, no, I'm being silly.
yeah,
It's like, you know, whenever you want to have a drink, it's a good drink to have. If you like drinking brandy, it's full strength, 80 proof, just like whiskey. But there's still something about it that's softer than whiskey. Whiskey, when you're making whiskey, you're trying to get as much oak flavor into it. Like when you're making bourbon, you use heavily charred oak barrels, and you want to get that char into the whiskey. That's what they consider aging or maturing, is when you get enough char.
okay,
We don't want that with it. We use toasted barrels, lightly toasted barrels, and they go in those barrels for 2 years. The new toasted barrels for 2 years, then we take them out and put them in old neutral barrels that have been used, that have been old enough so they're not imparting any more oak flavor.
Okay.
Because we want the apple flavor to come through. We want the tannins, the vanillas, the caramels from the tannin, from the oak, but we don't want the oak flavor necessarily.
Amazing. So the alcohol is 40% on this?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's wonderful. That is tasty. Yeah, just well balanced. No like crazy ethanol burn or anything like that.
Yeah.
This is very, very tasty. This is another dangerous alcohol you make for me. So whereas I'm like, oh, it tastes good and it doesn't hurt, so I'll just drink a bunch of it and pass out on my couch. So wow, very tasty. Now leading to this, I mean, you're creating the brandy, you're sitting on it, it's aging at least the first 6 years. Is at that point where you're like, we're going to open a tasting room for a limited part of the season?
Yeah. We're selling it. We're selling pretty much everything we bottle. It's not quite, we could probably sell a little bit more, but I don't want to get to a point where I'm being pressured to get bigger. So I'm not really pushing it. I don't want to have a tasting room I don't want to have that kind of pressure in my business. I mean, I'm an apple grower. And that's what I really like to do. I like being out on. I don't want to have a whole other business, tasting room in town kind of thing. It's a lifestyle choice, and I'm looking long term. Having this business. It's a lot of work for what we get paid. We're never gonna get really rich doing this. As long as we can pay the bills and have the lifestyle we do. I get up. I work every day. I work 7 days a week for the most part. But I love what I do, and I don't want to have to do something else.
Yeah, you don't need the pointless stress, right? And
Right.
as they say, if you love what you do, you're never working a day in your life.
Right.
And it sounds like you love what you do.
Yeah.
Clearly. And then you're just adding things. You're like, oh, let's make some brandy. Oh, let's add a barrel room. Okay,
Right.
let's add a small seasonal tasting room. And then you mentioned you do hay rides and
Right.
people come and pick the apples. I saw there was a concert stage outside. What kind of events do you host here?
Yeah. Well, we used to do a big festival in the fall. We don't do that. It got too big.
Okay.
And it got to be something other than what I wanted to have here in the orchard. But one of the things it did do is it put us on the map locally, and it really boosted the numbers of people who come here in the fall. Because honestly, coming up here now, we've got all those trees loaded with apples. You walk through the orchard when the trees are loaded with, and every year I go, there's no freaking way these are all gonna get picked.
Yeah.
Like there's so many apples. I need so many people to come, and sure enough, the cars come and people go out and the apples get picked, and it's a miracle that happens. But so everything kind of works hand in hand, and the fact that we're getting the retail for the brandy, like we have to have the orchard for, they all kind of work together, support each other. People come, they're all families.
Yeah.
Mostly all families, and the kids, and then the moms and the kids go off picking apples. The dad needs a drink, or the mom needs a drink while the kids are, it's like, it all just seems to work, it all works together.
Yeah. It's a great circle.
It's a great
circle of life.
And honestly, for me too, I love growing apples, but having the distillery, it just adds depth and character to my days. You know, the interest. It's interesting. It's an interesting thing. It's an art form to make it, and there's art form in anything anybody does, anyways. But be an apple grower and to have this also be part of the business just makes it so much richer and deeper.
No, it's fantastic to hear that, and clearly you're very passionate about what you do, which is the important part, because if you weren't passionate about it, I wouldn't be tasting it in the super tasty beverages you provided me. So it's there. I can taste your passion in the glass, as they say. So. And then, just having an orchard. I mean, we were, as a group, we were at a friend's wedding, and it was at an orchard, and I'm like, ooh, is there cider for me to drink? So do you have any events like that? Have people ever tried to book it and be like, hey, I want to have my wedding here, I want to have this? Okay.
Yeah.
And do you actually host those?
We do. Very few weddings. Okay. Weddings are hard. We have done weddings, and we're getting kind of more set up to be able to do weddings. If it's during harvest time, no, it's too crazy busy. And then the rest of the year, the spring and summer, the growing season, we're spraying. You know, the sprayings. You know, if we have to spray, we got to spray. If there's a wedding going on, I don't want to have to worry about that element. So
the last thing you need is a bride getting a black fly bite or something. So.
Yeah. So, but we do have during Pick Your Own. My daughter sets these up. We have that little stage. It's called the Shelburne Orchards main stage. That goes out in the orchard in different places where we're picking. And we have bands playing out. So you come upon a band playing in the orchard while you're picking apples. We also have a big table that we wheel out where we have brandy tasting out in the middle of the orchard when you're picking. We have special senior citizens days. We've got, so there's Burlington Taiko, the Japanese drummers. They come out. They'll be coming out this year, and we have a big tent, and there's tight, you can hear those drums all through the orchard while you're picking.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've noticed you do have some pretty good social media engagement too, from what I'm seeing online. How much do you find that's helped in the last few years outside the pandemic?
Yeah, well, the social media thing is just there. It's a stage that we utilize. And of course, my daughter, being a younger generation, she's more active in it, then it gets the word out. It's interactive with people in a way that really is helpful.
Yeah, and the younger generation. I mean, you're in your 70s. I'm in my 40s, but the younger generation of those who are starting to drink alcohol, I'm seeing that social engagement is creating them to find a brand like yours that they would never find before.
Right.
And then they're discovering a premium product and not just drinking some store shelf brandy.
Right.
They're actually getting good homegrown brandy.
So it's also, that's true. People who get out here, whether it's social media gets people out here, but once people get out here and they see the tasting room and make the connection that this comes from here, these apples and this brandy and this is, then that anybody will get that once they come here. When they come in here in the barrel cellar and see particularly if they get in the barrel cellar here and see this, then walk back out in the orchard, it's like, this is Vermont. Yeah. I love to say that this is the true spirit of Vermont agriculture.
Okay. Yeah, and Vermont, I mean, everybody we've spoken with too in Vermont is all about agricultural, keeping it as much as you can in Vermont.
Yeah.
And then if you have to, let's say, grab some sugar from a state over, or go up to Quebec and grab some stuff, because we're only literally at 2 hours north.
Yeah.
It's there, but it's regional.
Yeah.
And it's everybody supporting each other. Do you notice you get a lot of Montrealers, Quebecers around the area?
Yes.
Okay. Did you miss that French accent for a couple of years when the border was shut down?
Yes. It's a great connection. The Quebec-Vermont connection has always been really, and there is a lot of the French
Yeah.
farms, Canadian farms in this area, particularly in northern Vermont here. It's really part of the culture here. So it's
It seems Quebec, Vermont, and upstate New York, we all work well together.
Yeah.
So that's the important part. Is we're even though there's a pretend line that was created by somebody where we've had to put a border, we're still trying to spread the love at least for as much as we can.
Yeah.
So that's the important part to
well,
me.
honestly, this is a piece of information. When I was a teenager, the first person I learned to distill from was a French Canadian farmer.
Yes.
He had a still hidden in his barn, and I'd bring the barrel of cider, hard cider, and we would go up and, illegally.
Yeah, moonshining, I believe.
Moonshining makes them,
Yeah.
and he would, the stuff we made was terrible, but.
But it's a beginning. It's where the nucleus of what you're creating now, that's where it began. So that's amazing. I love hearing that. Dead bird brandy. Dead bird, that's pretty unique. Where does that come from?
Back in 1986, my grandfather died. And in the old house, there was a gathering after the service. And I was standing in front of the hearth, and I noticed this little life-sized bronze dead bird on the hearth. And I was looking at it going, that's a strange knick-knack. When I get a tap on the shoulder, I turn around, and there's an old man, and he says, I can tell you a story about that bird. That bird was found in the snow the morning after your grandfather's still caught fire during Prohibition. It's like, what? I turned around, it's like, I didn't, at that time, I never really had a whole lot in common with my grandfather until that minute. Now he's dead, but
Yeah.
I grabbed the old man by the arm. We need to sit down. I need to hear the story. So the story goes, it's the middle of the winter, below zero out. My grandfather's in the cellar cooking up a batch of hooch of some kind and whiskey probably. It catches fire. They got to call the fire department. The fire department shows up same time as the liquor control agent. The guys on the fire department were friends of my grandfather, so they knew about the still. They were in on the still. The guy holding the hose goes, oops, and soaks the revenue. It's so cold, he has to go home, change his clothes. By the time he gets back, they'd hidden all the evidence. Nobody gets caught that night.
Love it.
The next morning, my grandfather finds a bird that had died in the commotion, the smoke or whatever, in the snow outside the cellar door. He took it, had it bronzed, and gave one to everyone in on it that night as a memento and a thank you for keeping his ass out of jail.
That's amazing. Yeah, Prohibition back then, I mean, we only had it for, I think, less than a year in Canada, but it was almost like 10 years here in America. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Like 10 years, no booze, it's illegal. And, and now with the pandemic, booze was considered an essential service. Yeah. So it's crazy how times have changed.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Awesome. So what's the future for Shelburne Orchards and Dead Bird Brandy?
Hopefully, it just finds its place in the fabric of this community. And
okay.
I don't ever see it becoming a big thing. I always picture it being something that people can come here and get, and it's going to stay the size of this place, 100 acres orchard, and
1,000 bottles a year.
1,000 bottles a year, yeah. We could go bigger than that. We could probably double that without much trouble, but we could follow. We can follow that demand up to a certain point without getting bigger. I never want to buy apples in for it. Mm-hmm. I never want to have it be bigger than what we can do right here with the people that work here. So it'll always remain. This bottle, is bottled by hand.
Yeah.
I write the date. I sign it. I put the little wax seal on it. We dip it. It's all by hand. There's just it'll always be that way.
Yeah. Homegrown, homemade, keep it local.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, and if it's not in your nature to be like, I don't want to burn myself out doing this,
right,
then why do it, right?
Right.
So, and you seem very content with what you're doing.
Yeah.
As you said, 7 days a week, probably 10, 16-hour days sometimes.
Yeah, not during harvest, yes, but
yeah. And then tasting room, just limited season, but come on by, try some brandy. And
Yeah, you can buy it any time of the year here, and just contact us. So, because I'm not always up at the tasting room, but I can, if someone shows up and texts me, you know, I come up and.
And then during harvest season, come grab some cider donuts and hard cider. Not hard cider, just regular cider.
Yeah.
You don't have any alcoholized cider.
We
right?
don't.
Okay.
We make hard cider in the process of making brandy, but we don't. Yeah.
Yeah. So just come by, try some cider, buy a bottle of brandy, a bottle of Pommeau, and we're good to go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Nick, thank you very much
thank
for today.
you.
Really appreciate
Thank
this.
you. Yeah.
Thanks. I think anybody who's willing to talk to us about their business, clearly you're very passionate about what you do, so that's the important part. For those who are not aware of Shelburne Orchards or Dead Bird, where can they find you?
We are here at 216 Orchard Road, Shelburne, Vermont, or our website is shelburneorchards.com, SHELBURNE, orchards.com.
So all that's going to be in the show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, please click the subscribe button, the notification bell, and the like button. Any little love that you can provide to us is always helpful. As for us, allbeerinside.com is the website, at allbeerinside on all social media. And as I say at the end of all episodes, drink craft, not crap.